Please be seated. Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them. Peter, in Jerusalem, in a whole crowd of people, stands up and says, loud enough for everyone to hear, that he is a witness to everything Jesus has done. Now think about that. Because what was the last thing we heard Peter say in a crowd in Jerusalem about Jesus? I don't know him. Not once, but 3 times, right? What happened that moved him from I don't know him to listen up, everybody? I mean, the short answer is the resurrection happened. Well, the resurrection combined with Pentecost, the gift of the Holy Spirit, which actually happens at different times in different Gospels. In our Acts reading, it's 50 days after Easter, but in John, it's Easter night, when Jesus breathes on them and says, receive the Holy Spirit. But let's rewind a little bit. It's the day of the resurrection. It's that evening, and the disciples are all locked in a room. Why? Because of fear, which, let's be honest, is completely understandable. They are still in the city where the empire has just sent a very brutal, very public message to anyone who dares to follow Jesus or in any way oppose the empire. They are behind locked doors not because they lack faith, but because they are legitimately afraid for their lives. And Peter, who knows what he did, knows that he denied Jesus, might have more to fear than the rest of them, because who else knows what he did? It's unclear in the scriptures. Certainly Jesus knows, at least in Luke's version. He looks right at Peter as the denial spills out of him. So what's going to happen when Peter comes face to face with the resurrected Christ? So I said last week that we all have many reasons to cling to what was. We also have many reasons for staying locked inside of our safe places. But the risen Christ appears even in locked rooms, and when he does, everything changes. Mary sees him in the garden and reaches for him but can't touch him. Thomas, who's not in the room the first time, and we're not told why, but Thomas does seem to deal with fear differently than other disciples. You remember when everyone else was terrified to go back to Judea? He's the one who says, "Let us also go that we may die with him." Thomas is also, I think, understandably reluctant to trust the others, maybe especially Peter, when they say, "We have seen the Lord." So Mary sees Jesus and hears her name, and that's enough. It's like touch would almost be too much. But Thomas is the opposite. For him, words aren't enough. He needs to touch the wounds. And then there's Peter, who so often seems to be saying just the wrong thing at just the wrong time. The most consequential of which is, of course, I don't know him. All 3 of them are locked in, trapped in a certain state of being. Mary, locked in grief. She can barely see through her tears. Thomas, who is locked outside of the experience that the others had for reasons that we will probably never know. Peter, locked in the regret of knowing what he is really capable of on the worst night of his life. all of them afraid of living under an empire that has demonstrated time and time again the brutality that it is capable of. What are the rooms, what are the places, the states of being that we are locked into? We have all certainly locked doors because of fear of becoming a target, fear of being too visible, fear of saying or doing the wrong thing in a tense situation, fear of not saying or doing something that really needs to be said or done. Maybe grief is what locks you in, grief that our lives haven't turned out the way that we had hoped. Or maybe it's just some nagging sense that you're missing something important, that you've somehow failed some test along the way that really mattered. We all have reasons for staying in our locked rooms, just as the disciples did. But when the risen Christ walks in and gives them a way out, not one of them stays locked up, right? Mary sees him, hears her name, and is sent with the message, "I have seen the Lord." Thomas demands to touch the wounds, and when he does, he is the first to proclaim, "My Lord and my God." And Peter, who denied Jesus in one breath, is given the ability to speak clearly and persuasively about Jesus in another. And if you read a little further in John, he's also given 3 opportunities to speak and actually undo his denial. Mary, Thomas, Peter, not one of them stayed locked in that room. And not one of them was able to unlock the door themselves from the inside. What unlocks the room has to come from the outside, has to come as a gift from God. It's a gift that some of us might receive by sharing a moment of unexpected grace within a community. Others might receive it through a direct encounter with the hurts and the scars of the world, by touching whatever it is that you would rather not touch. And others of us will discover that gift in the courage to stand up and speak, even when you think that you may not be the best person to do that. The scriptures don't actually tell us how Peter got from blurting out, "I don't know him," to proclaiming, "Jesus of Nazareth is risen from the dead." What they give us is the before and the after, and the breath that comes in between. The name spoken in the garden, the wounds offered to doubting hands, the sad look across a courtyard, and then days later, the same look and the chance to say something different. What happens in between that is the giving of a gift of something that cannot be bought or sold or manufactured. It can only be received. And that's what happens here every week. When we gather around this altar, we're not manufacturing or confecting courage, we're receiving it. And then, still in the land where terrible things happen, still carrying all of our wounds and our grief and our limitations with us, still in a world that is awash in brutality and violence, we go. Just like Mary and Thomas and Peter, we go out of this room where we have met the risen Christ. We go out into the world to witness to all that we have touched and seen and heard. Thanks be to God.